SANTACO presented to the minister 4 issues that they want to be reconsidered for the taxi industry to survive the lockdown period. SANTACO says as of the 1st of July, taxi fares will increase nationally. The increase is a yearly occurrence in the taxi business to address all operational costs that taxi operators will be facing. We speak now to SANTACO's spokesperson, Thabisho Molelekwa, who joins me now live via Skype. Thabisho, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on the SABC News channel.
Good afternoon, Palisan. Thank you for the opportunity.
Now, the industry has had many concerns with how government has responded to the challenges it faces, more so during this COVID-19 lockdown. So SANTACO has had this meeting now with the Transport Minister. Let's just start by reflecting on those critical areas of your concerns.
Thank you very much. These concerns are not really new. Since lockdown, we've had these issues, but we've taken a decision at the time that it is imperative for the industry to really work with government to ensure that our people are safe and so on. But we have since realized as we move progressively to other levels of lockdown that some of the things need to be reviewed, particularly because the industry has been strained since day one of lockdown. We have raised with the Minister of Transport that importantly, long-distance operations, for instance, have not been operating since day one of lockdown. We have then submitted to him there's a need for now for government to open the operations of long distances as soon as possible. And why we say so is because of the environment is now conducive in terms of government regulations to ensure that those companies that are willing or are ready to operate at 100% capacity must just give government a business case also as to how they would mitigate against the spread of coronavirus. The second issue is the issue of loading capacity. We have said to the minister that there's a need to also review that because 70% operators are struggling really to make profit around that, more so that the payment holiday is over and the 1st of July, most of them have got to pay installments. So we are looking at 100%. We have realized that in the aviation industry, 100% loading capacity is practical, provided that some mechanisms have been in place. And this is why we want to copy that model and see how best we can put instruments in place to ensure that when we do that, our people are safe, arrive safe, and the virus is contained.
All right, so you've also spoken about the delayed relief fund, and SANTACO says it has been nearly impossible for taxi operators to survive. So how has it been, if you could just elaborate on this for us, make us understand what taxi owners, for example, may have been going through as a result of this COVID-19, because we understand that many are even facing some huge repossessions in the next months or so?
Since day one of lockdown, the taxi industry has been operating at 10% of its total operating fleet. So in other words, 230,000 taxis have been parked at home. They have not been working, which has had an effect on the driver, on the queue marshal, and the general operations of the taxi in terms of income and sustainability of those elements that I have mentioned. That's the first thing. The loading capacity of 50% and subsequently 70% has really led the industry to be operating really on ensuring that the people are able to put in petrol, people are able to carry essential services, employees back and forth. There's also been the issue of operating hours. That has been another impediment. A cherry on top has been that there has been inconsistent application of law in the provinces, leading to many operators or taxis being impounded by law enforcement agencies. So industry has not really been making money except to literally subsidize the commuter in terms of taking them to their various destinations. So coming to this far, we have since realized that if there is no serious intervention on the side of government or otherwise, in the next 6 months to 8 months, at least 45% of taxi operators are likely to lose their taxis to repossessions that we are going to face, because they are at the moment not even able to make just the installment payment for the month based on the current operation.
But what was agreed upon in your meeting with the minister regarding the relief fund? Has there been any decision taken?
Well, the minister listened to us. He gave us audience. He allowed us to ventilate our frustrations, and he did accept them as a justified complaint. But the minister requested us to give him an opportunity to consult internally with government and also apply his mind and find ways in which, if practical or if agreeable, how this can be done. But what we have indicated to the minister is that, Minister, we are not just a bunch of people who want 100% and long distance to be opened without a credible case. Allow us, if that need comes, to present to you how we are best going to ensure that this is properly managed. On the issue of the relief fund, the minister has not committed as well. He has said that it would be difficult for government to be able to assist the industry in the way in which we have requested him to. Unfortunately, I'm not at liberty at the moment to get into specificities of what we have really said to the minister until to the time when he comes back to us.
But the reason for my question, Thabisho, is that you've got some associations in Alexandra who have actually threatened a total shutdown if there is no clear indication as to when this particular COVID-19 relief payment will be made.
Correct. And that frustration, you must remember, comes from a period of waiting, a period of frustration, a period of loss of hope in terms of what people were expecting on the side of government. Remember that it's been a while now since the issue of the relief fund has been mooted by government. And to this day, we have not really concluded that process. And this is what frustrates people. But cherry on top is the fact that as of the 1st of July, people are expected to pay for their vehicles. And we are talking nothing less than 12,000 rands that would be expected from taxi operators. So people in Alexander, when they increased fares with 172%, it was a reaction to the pressure that taxi operators have been facing since day one of lockdown until today.
All right, so talking about taxi fare going up, we know that from the 1st of July, it is expected that the increase will kick in. Talk to us about that, because we understand that the provinces will have to determine their own percentages as to how much will they be hiking the fares. But who's going to ensure that whatever they determine remain fair prices to commuters?
Well, the first thing that we commit ourselves as SANTACO to the commuting public is that these prices will be reasonable and practical for them to be able to afford them.
And how do we know, Thabisho, how do we know that they're not COVID-19 related? That's another question.
Okay. Every year around this time, June, the leadership of SANTACO does sit down to consider, among others, the review of taxi fare prices. So this is just one of those standing items in the calendar of the taxi industry. And this is why we have assured the commuters that this is not COVID-19 related. In fact, if it was to be, then the issue of the percentages that commuters are likely to experience would be quite higher, precisely because we are dealing with containing the impact of COVID-19 on taxi fare, on taxi operations. But now it is just a yearly occurrence, and every taxi operator or every taxi structure in the country knows that they are entitled around this time to reconsider their prices. What we have said to them is that while they have the latitude as provinces to determine the percentages, SANTACO will, however, monitor that these percentages that are put on that are hiked on these prices are reasonable and practical, and where we feel that these prices are not fair, we will make the necessary intervention. We do know, as a matter of fact, that for instance, in the Eastern Cape, they have hiked the prices with 10%, and so is the Northern Cape and the Northwest. We do know that in Gauteng, there is an agreement of around 45%, where that will be effected on taxi fares.
All right, so we understand there is another meeting scheduled for next week with the minister, so I suppose that is where you will be getting all the outstanding answers that you need from government? Definitely.
We are looking forward to this meeting with greatest anticipation in the hope that the government will hear our plight and respond to our complaints and concerns positively, so that we are able to move forward and nobody or casualties are as minimal as possible post-COVID-19.
All right, Thabisho, that's where we'll leave the discussion for today. Thank you so much for coming through. Thabisho Molelekwa is SANTACO's spokesperson, talking to us about SANTACO's meeting with the Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula and the issues, of course, around the hiking of transport fares. As he has said, your Eastern Cape, Northwest, Northern Cape, taxi prices will go up with about 10% here in Gauteng, 45% in other provinces are still to determine their percentages. All right, let's take a quick